Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got a third-party transforming figure review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the NewAge Toys Air Guardian Firefox. So this is their take on a Legends scaled Jetfire, Skyfire, whatever you want to call him. And this guy really is a gorgeous looking figure. But before we begin, I do want to say just right up front, if my voice sounds a little different, it's because I'm trying to recover from a bit of a cold. So apologies if I don't sound the way I normally do, but let's go ahead and keep going with this. So let's take a look at that packaging. And right there at the top you have Air Guardian. You have a little bit of verbiage there if you care to read it. You've got some nice artwork there. He is the Air Guardian. Over here on the side, you've got some product shots. So there he is in his alt mode. There he is in his bot mode, Air Guardian Firefox. And back here you have NewAge Air Guardian. He is lifting Megatron up. I believe it's Agamemnon from NewAge. And going to throw him. And then you've got some verbiage down there if you care to read it. Over here you have some more product shots and the sticker. So there you go. Up top, got some artwork. Down low, you got some artwork. So that does it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and take a look at everything that came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box. It's not a lot, but let's go ahead and get started. You do get your sheet of instructions over here, so these are pretty well done. A little sneak preview there. They're pretty easy to follow. No issues there. You do not get a little sheet of warnings because third-party manufacturers really don't care if you hurt yourself. So don't choke on anything. There's my warning for you. So that leaves you with what you have left here, which is the only accessory he comes with, his rifle. So this is pretty good. It's not the most exciting thing, and it's a nice callback to that G1 Jetfire Skyfire. There's no paint on it. Just a little bit of detail in there. Nothing major, but it looks pretty good. I like it. It's simplistic, but it gets the job done. I do also like what NewAge has done here with the ability to hold the weapon. So you've got these slots built into the handle there that correspond to the tabs in his hands, and it helps him hold it a little more securely. Now, it may be inadvertent, but you do have blast effect compatibility here. So I'm choosing skinny blast effects because these are so close together that if you use the traditional, like say the blast effects that came with the Commander class Jetfire, they're not going to fit. They're going to bump into each other. But if you have a couple of these others laying around and you don't fat finger it too much, you can squeeze them on. Maybe. Yep, we're on camera, so that's why this is doing it. Oh, shoot. Look at that. I've got a head cold and my blast effects don't want to stay on. Well, they were staying on earlier, but there you go. So you can do that if you want to do that. That's totally up to you. If you don't want to do it, just take them off. Like I say, it's not designed for it. I think it's just happy coincidence that they stick a little bit. All right, so that's it for everything that came inside the box. Let's go ahead and bring Mr. Firefox in and take a look at his details. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is the NewAge H45 Air Guardian Firefox, a.k.a. Jetfire, a.k.a. Skyfire, whatever you want to call him. Really good looking bot. Before I get started, I do want to just throw a little bit of useless knowledge out there. I'm not sure if it was their intention or not, but for those of you who remember, there was an old film, I believe in the early 80s, that starred Clint Eastwood where he was going to steal a Soviet experimental jet, and that movie was called Firefox. And yeah, this figure in the alt mode kind of looks like that Firefox jet that was in the movie. So not sure if that's what they were going for here, but kind of interesting anecdotal information there for you. But let's go ahead and take a look at his details. And we're going to start right up here at the head. He looks good. There's just not much else to say. He just looks good. It's a good face sculpt. I like the silver up here. Side looks pretty good. One thing I do like is he is solid all the way through. I mean, you've got no hollow areas on this guy whatsoever, so much appreciated. You could kind of see some of the mechanism for the transformation right there. And coming on down to the chest, he is quality control passed, so that's good. You got those nice intakes right there. Now you do have this this chest plate here where you can, if you get repro labels or anything like that, you can put different labels on there, and it is really tight, but you can spin it. So you've got a spot for an Autobot, spot for a Decepticon, and then when he's in his jet mode, you've just got a flat panel right there. So very cool, very nice touch that they added that. All right, and coming on down, there's a little bit of that cockpit. Then you've got that waist and crotch area, looks pretty good. Coming on down to those legs, everything looks great there. Inside has a little bit of sculpt work. And then you've got these feet down here. Nice big feet, makes him really stable. He does have some die cast down here. And, you know, for a legend scaled figure, he's pretty hefty. I like the heft on this guy. He feels solid. All right, coming up the side, lift that arm out of the way, and you can see all the way through. He is nice and solid. Now, I will say it's not even a complaint, but my one issue with this is his backpack is just on this double hinge, which is fine. And you have these 2 ports right there that correspond to the tabs on his back. Just through handling, I mean, they're tight enough. It's not going to move, but you just have the natural tendency to just want to grab the guy like this, and when you do, it pops that backpack. So if that backpack pops off, apologies in advance. That's what's going on. All right, coming up here, looking at those arms. Everything looks good there. Insides, all that works. Very nice. And coming around, take a side view so you can get an idea of the size of that backpack, which is not bad at all. I don't have any issue with this whatsoever. And then taking a look at him from the back. Even from the back, that is great job done there. I just really admire the overall looks of this guy in his bot mode and his alt mode for that matter. All right, so that is it for his details. Let's go ahead and talk about this guy's articulation. In regards to articulation, this figure is actually done really well. Let's go ahead and cover that briefly. So on the head, it's a little interesting here. He's not on a ball joint. This is like one of those more traditional masterpiece style heads. So he has that connection right up under there. And as you can see, he can look up quite a bit. He can look down just a little bit. There's nothing side to side, but you can take that all the way around a full 360. Apologies, this just came loose. It's, as I mentioned earlier, as I handle him, it's just those 2 right there. It's just going to pop loose occasionally because I have a tendency to squeeze him right there in that backpack area. Shoulders will come up that far. You can go all the way around, just mind the wings. And then at the elbows, you can get over 90 degrees of a bend, and then you have a bicep rotation right there. At the hands, you have wrist rotation, so you can go all the way around with those. And then you have the 4 fingers that work as one unit to open up right there. Coming on down to the waist, you have waist rotation. You can get about that far either direction before you start running into stuff. And then you do have an ab crunch. So that's good to see. And then down here to the hips, you get almost a full split out of this guy. So plenty of range of motion there. And then kicking forward, it's pretty significant. You can kick forward that far. Kicking backward, just moving that leg out a little bit to clear that backpack, you can get up about that far as well. So good range of motion there in the legs. You have thigh rotation right there. And then at the knees, you have double jointed knees, so you can get a really, really deep knee bend right there. Love that. That is great articulation. And coming down to those feet. So the feet themselves, you can move them up that far. You can move them down that far. And then you have ankle tilt. That goes almost 90 degrees in. Actually, it goes probably just a tick over 90 degrees in right there. All right, so one thing to note on here, I didn't talk about it earlier, but you have these little plastic, so you can see up on the top right there. So this is die cast, but then right here in the middle, you have these little plastic tabs that if you give those a push, those come out, and those almost look like spurs. And I can't figure out what they're for. I don't know if they're supposed to go like that in bot mode, or if they're supposed to be like that in bot mode, and they have no function in the jet mode either. So if anybody has any ideas, and I didn't see anything in the instructions unless I missed it, but if anyone has any ideas, let me know. I'm just leaving them like that for now. That's kind of my default, but you know, it very well might be, because as I push that up, this comes out. So maybe I really do need to put them in. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, so that's it for the articulation. If you do that, as a matter of fact, you know what? Now you've got that heel spur that you can maneuver as well. So I bet that's what it is. I'm talking myself into it now. So probably leave them like that. And then you've got heel spur articulation as well. So, all right. So with that, that covers the details on the articulation. Not much to talk about here as far as the accessories go. So let's just go ahead and take care of that now. So he comes with that one accessory, that rifle, and you have the ability, as you would expect, to plug that into his hand. Now I want to show you, he has a little tab in there, and that corresponds to the slots on either side of the gun. So he's got slots on each side. So you're really just taking that and slotting that in, and then you're using the hand to hold it securely, and it's not going to go anywhere. That's in there nicely. You could probably, force it and pull it out and make it go crooked, but just free holding, he's not going to do anything with that. He's not going to let that go. So nice and secure there. So I think it's a job well done as far as holding onto that gun. Definitely better than some of the things that I've seen in the past. All right, so now that we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the transformation. I'm going to give my voice a rest, and then we'll get into that transformation segment. So let's go ahead and get Firefox transformed into his alt mode. I will start by saying this is not a complicated transformation. Actually, it's quite fun. It's just a little fiddly at times, especially with that backpack. So I'll try to do the best I can to capture what's happening. But let's go ahead and get started. So to get him started, let's just do a little bit of prep first. So straighten those arms out and push in these little elbow flaps. So you're going to push them in like that. And then you can push those shoulder pads down as well, but they're going to auto adjust for you, so I'm not going to be too concerned about it. And then you're going to put those hands in, so you've got these little flaps back here. Open those up, fold your hands in, do the same thing on the other side. All right, now that you've got that out of the way, we're going to turn our attention to that backpack. So if it didn't already unpeg on you, go ahead and unpeg it. And then it's on that double hinge back there. You're just going to kind of raise it up like that and get it out of your way. Now you're going to come to the chest right here, and you're just going to pull on these two panels. So give those a little bit of a pull on either side, and that's going to loosen up this entire assembly right here, and that's going to allow you to essentially pull him apart. So you're going to take that and you're going to pull him apart, so he's kind of laying like that at this point. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and proactively at the hips, I'm going to turn his legs 90 degrees. And then I'm also going to disassemble his chest right now as well. So I'm going to pull these panels out. They're sitting on double hinges as well, so I'm going to pull those out just like that. That's going to allow me to pull this center area out, which becomes his nose cone. All right, so once you bring it up to this point, you're going to squeeze these together. Again, apologies for my voice. I'm getting over a cold, trying not to sound like I'm going through puberty, but it is what it is. All right, so once you have this together, you have these little pieces right here. You're actually going to bring those forward. Those tabs right there are going to go to those slots. So go ahead and grab those and bring those forward, and then that's going to tab in, and then you can see it becomes those intakes right there. So do the same thing on the other side. Bring that forward, tab it in, and just going to leave that as it is for now. We're not going to get too concerned with anything else at this point. I just wanted to proactively get all that done because it gives me a little bit more room up here. All right, so you're going to bring those arms in, and then you're going to close your hand tab. There you go. And then you're going to raise those arms up just to give you clearance for now. All right, so you should have something that looks like that. And once you're here, now you're going to take this backpack and you're going to pull it apart. This is where it gets kind of fiddly. It's not bad, it's just fiddly. So it took a couple times to really get the pattern down here. So once you bring this open like that, you'll notice that these are not symmetrical. This has an extra piece right here. This is actually the center piece sitting on a double hinge. So you're going to take this piece and you're going to bring it out on that double hinge. And when you do, you've got a little flap down here. You have to open that up, and then it tabs in on these two tabs. And then you have one up here that tabs in on that tab up there. So go ahead and do that. Tab all those in. And then you can see how that kind of expanded that backpack area. All right, once you have that, now you're actually going to give this a pull. Let's see if I can show it on this side behind the head. You've got these little screws right in there. These are on sliders, so you can see as I give that a pull, that's going to expand this right there. All right, so once you do that, kind of tuck these away. We're going to get to these in a minute. So this is the tricky part. So what you're going to do is you're going to rotate this 180 degrees, but as you do that, you're actually going to bring it down and you're going to clear those right there. Get that hip skirt out of the way. And you should have something that looks like that. So you want these to be laying like that up underneath. Okay? So then we're going to bring this down the rest of the way. And ultimately you're going to want bring these flaps down and fold them in like this. So you're going to want those to look like that. So this is the before, this is the after. So bring it down and fold that in right there. So that's going to form that area like that. Okay. And then bring these halves up. And as you bring these halves up, you can see your wings. They were like this. You now want them swept back like that, because that gives you the clearance. So there's your before, or there's your after, and there's your before. So swing that wing out like that. And then you're going to start bringing this up. As you bring this up, now you can push those arms down. Make sure his head is straight. And then all you're going to do is you're going to hide everything inside this. So this entire backpack assembly contains the head, the arms, and so on and so forth. All right. Keep that head straight if you can. And then line everything up here. You've got a series of tabs and slots, and give all that a squeeze. All right. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully I was able to show it well enough. It is kind of different. All right. So now that you've gotten that, go ahead and bring these pieces up. You have tabs here and slots there, so you can bring those up and tab them in. And do the same thing on the other side. And then come down here to this bottom piece. The reason that I didn't do any of this earlier was because the ab crunch gets in the way. So you have that ab crunch, which I'm moving right there. You have on this piece, when you unfold it and you're going to bring it down, it's going to cover the bottom. However, you have a little slot right there and a little tab right there. So you don't want to lock this thing in until you have everything pre-assembled, if you will. All right, then you've just got this little cone in the front. You're going to undo that, give that a snap, and then you've got that completed. All right, so now all we've got left is the legs or the back of the jet. So we're going to straighten those out. All right, and before I go any further, I'm going to do a quick edit here just so I can clear my throat and cough without you guys having to suffer through it. Be back in just a second. Oh yeah, having a cold is great. Sorry about that edit, guys. Just had to clear my throat. Let's go ahead and get back into it. So once you have the Firefox figure at this point, just take quick note down here. You've got a peg and a port. We're not going to use those yet. Actually, we're going to save that for one of the last steps. But what we are going to do is we're going to take these legs and we're going to split them. And we're going to take them about that far apart to give us the clearance that we're going to need for the next step. So take your heel spurs and you're going to fold your heel spurs down into your feet. Should have something that looks like that. And then you're going to use that ankle tilt. You're going to tilt that foot out like that. And then once you do, you're going to push on this panel. And you'll notice you've got your thruster hanging out in there. And then once you've done that, you're actually going to turn your foot. So it's like that. And then these two are going to work in tandem. As you bring that flap forward, you're going to put that foot in. All right, but before I get too far, I do want to show you, you do have a peg and a port right there. So once you bring that foot in, you're going to bring this panel down and you're going to line those up and you're going to give that a squeeze. So you should have something that looks like that. Okay, do the same thing over here. So take that foot out and then just give that a tilt inward like that. And then push on that panel and make sure that you've got your clearance like that. So that way when it comes around, and then give those two a squeeze. And then you have that. We're almost there, guys. We're in the home stretch. So now what you can do is you can plug these two in at that main peg and port, so give those two a squeeze right there. And then what you're going to do, it might be a little difficult to see, but up there behind the kneecap you have a tab and a slot system that kind of keeps these legs aligned in bot mode. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to give those a little bit of a bend and a pull, and I'm going to disconnect them. So there's those tabs. So now that I have them disconnected, it allows me to collapse those legs in as such. All right, but before I do the complete collapse, I'm actually going to align these two sets of thrusters. And then when I do, I have ports right here that are going to align to these pegs right up under there. So I'm going to plug those in, and I'm going to collapse those legs, and I'm going to align those holes. I'm going to give those a squeeze, and then I'm just going to push those thrusters up, and then everything is nice and secure right there. All right, so the last few things that we have to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull the landing gear out now so I can set him down. So you've got the two landing gear there. Give this a push, make sure that's secured in, and then you have your landing gear up here, if I can squeeze it and get it down. So you've got your sets of landing gear. And now what we'll do is I'll do a quick camera adjustment, and then we will take care of these wings. All right, so you just have these flaps right up under there. You're just going to grab those flaps, bring them forward, and bring this flap down. Do the same thing on the other side. Bring that flap up, bring this flap down. And then the last thing is just your stabilizers right up here. Angle those how you wish. Give everything one last squeeze, make sure everything looks good. And there you have Firefox in his alt mode. And here he is in that alt mode, and what a beautiful alt mode it is. It really is a nice looking jet here. I think NewAge has done a fine job here of capturing that Skyfire, Jetfire figure. Really impressed with what we have here for a legend scale. So wanted to throw him on the turntable here so you can get a full 360. You will notice that I went ahead and I do have the gun right there. Now I couldn't find it in the instructions, but it's just common sense. It just makes sense. There's a port right underneath the cockpit, and that gun fits in perfectly. So there you go. I hope I have it in the right place. I kind of have a good feeling that I do. But yeah, he looks good from every angle. I think he's pretty clean overall. Not a lot of kibble hanging on this guy at all. So let's go ahead and kind of get that close-up of him, and we will just bring him in first and take a look at that cockpit. That cockpit does open, so you can open it up and you can see that, which is cool. And then of course you do have your changer, presto changer right there. He can be an Autobot Decepticon or nondescript, which is what he is right now, is nondescript. And you've got those little intakes with the silver paint right there on the side. And then coming around on this side, I'm going to assume these are some type of exhaust. They look pretty good. Landing gear, just molded plastic. There's nothing amazing there. They don't roll, but they're fine. Wings look pretty good. You do have a little bit of sculpt work in there. And then coming back here to the back, we saw this in the legs. And then you have these thrusters. Look pretty good right there. Some nice sculpt work on the back side there too. And then even up here, that backpack area expands out, looks good. And here's the left side, just like the right side. And let's move this out of the way a little bit. And I'm going to take the gun off. I'll show you that port. But first, let's take a look at the top. So there he is from the top. Pretty good. And from the bottom, nice and clean. And then right up here is the port I was talking about. So there's a screw under there, but it lines up perfectly with that gun. You just plug it in and it's nice and tight. Not going to go anywhere. All right. And then as far as landing gear go, just close those up. And yeah, you're ready to rock and roll. So he looks pretty good. All right. So that's it for the details in the alt mode. Let's go ahead and get into the comparisons. I was going to put the landing gear down, but I guess maybe I should. I mean, you don't want him crash landing. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get into some of those alt mode comparisons. For our first alt mode comparison, I figured I would bring in an ex-best friend of Jetfire, Skyfire. This is the core class Starscream, so you can see how that Legends class scales up to the core class over here. Next up is a fellow NewAge figure. This is the NewAge David, aka Optimus Prime in that legend scale. And yeah, I think these two scale up pretty well in alt mode. I mean, that looks right to me. Maybe. All right, now we'll go ahead and we'll get into some Jetfire comparisons. So this is the Generations Thrilling 30 Jetfire. Moving on to our next comparison, this is my original G1 Jetfire, and yeah, he's showing his age, but man, he got played with a lot, so I think he's had a good life. And for our final and what I think is the most relevant comparison, this is the War for Cybertron Siege Commander Class Jetfire, which quite obviously this is what Firefox is based on, no doubt about it. But one big thing that I notice here is just how brilliant white Firefox is here. And I know, that there may be a little bit of weathering going on here with the Siege weathering effect that they like to put on those figures. But, unfortunately, I think I'm getting some yellowing as well, and that's really disappointing. That's just not something that I would want to see from that price point. And I keep all my figures in a room with no natural light coming in. So I do the best I can to try to keep them clean and try to keep them from yellowing. It's just unfortunate to see that on this figure. But let's go ahead and do a couple of different views here. So we've got that front, but let's go ahead and kind of put them side by side as well so you can see what's going on there. And this very much does look like just a father and son out for a good old flight. All right, let's go ahead and move him this way and move him this way. Let's see. Yeah, that would be good. And let's go ahead and see them 3/4 rear view to 3/4 rear view. Just take a look at them from there. All right, there you go. So there you have your alt mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and fly you on out of here. All right, let's go ahead and get Firefox transformed back into his bot mode. We'll do some comparisons there. Let's go ahead and get Firefox transformed back into his bot mode now. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if you haven't already done so, is you're going to want to go ahead and collapse those landing gear and get those out of your way. And once you've done that, start folding up those wings. So you can take these back flaps and fold them under, and then take the top ones and fold them over. And do the same thing back here. Back flaps under, and then the tips over. You can go ahead and flatten these now if you want to, or you can flatten them later. It's totally your choice. I'm going to do a little bit of work here in the front before I get started back here, just to get everything loosened up. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece and I'm going to fold it out of my way. I'm going to take that nose cone and fold it in. So I'm just going to go ahead and have that done. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen those chest pieces right there and return those pieces where they belong. That way, whenever I'm moving all this stuff around, if I engage the ab crunch, I don't have to worry too much about this being locked in. So go ahead and turn your attention to the back now. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these legs from the rest of the body. And in order to do that, we're going to pop those kneecaps, kind of like, I guess, the Godfather would. So you're going to just put your thumb and finger on either side, and you're just going to pull down. And when you pull down, it's going to disengage these little ports under there. And then you can pull these down and just simply get those off those back thrusters. And when you do that, then it's going to allow you to bring those legs out. So I'm going to split the legs right now, and then I want to show you something. So once you split these legs, you're going to want to make sure that on these kneecaps, you tab these in. Oh, sorry, stay in focus. That you tab those tabs in right there into these slots that are inside of there. So just make sure you line those up and give those a squeeze and make sure you have that tabbed in. So they should look like this. All right. And once you've done that, now we're going to take care of those feet. So I'm going to spread that leg out a little bit just so I've got clearance. And then what you need to do, and you could do it, you could split this before you tab that in, but always check that tab after you split these. So give that a pull right there. That's going to open that up. Make sure that your knee stayed tabbed in. And then you're going to take this foot, bring the foot out like that, and then you're going to return that panel where it belongs. And once you do that, now you can take that foot and you can turn it. I say you can turn it. There we go. And then you can bring it down. And then you've got your little heel spur here. You've got a little spot for your fingernail to get in right there. So then you can just grab that and bring it back. And you've got one leg done. So we're going to do the same thing over here. We'll change the order a little bit here just so I can show you. So make sure that you pop this right there and you have that disconnected. And once you do that, then you're going to bring that leg down. Make sure that you have your tab securely tabbed in. All right. And then we're going to move that foot, swing that inward, and then we're going to bring that foot to the right orientation and then bring that down. So now you have both of those legs completed. All right. So now we're going to turn our attention to this backpack. So go ahead and start splitting the backpack. And it splits in two places, but the primary split is right here. So along this line, because this little piece right here stays connected to this piece through that double hinge. So go ahead and start giving that a pull and then split that right there, just like that. And once you do, you open it up, voila, there's the head, there's the arms. Okay, so lift these arms up out of your way because you're going to need that clearance. While you're here, go ahead and disconnect this piece and then fold this tab in, and then you've got this double hinge. So you're just going to collapse this just like that. All right, so now you've got that all set the way you need it to be. All right, so now you are going to essentially, you're going to take this entire thing, you're going to flip this up, and then you're going to do a bit of a 180 with this backpack right here. All right, so what I'm going to do before I get that started is I'm going to give the rest of my body a place to be. So I'm going to pull these apart and give them the split right there. So you should have something that looks like that, because ultimately what our goal is we're going to tuck this piece away right there, and we're going to make that chest. These will secure in later, but right now I'm not going to worry about those. I just want them out of my way so you can have them something like that. That's fine. Right? It does sometimes make it easier if you get these legs out of your way, and it also makes it easier to stand to the figure while you're working on it this way as well. So if you want to do that, go ahead and bring your legs down. Oh, just don't do that. Then you're going to bring, looking for the best view here, guys, you're going to bring this entire assembly up. And as you bring this entire assembly up, you're going, everything that's red, you're actually going to spin 180 degrees. So I'm going to try and keep those arms there, bring this up, and then I'm going to spin all of this, just like that. Okay? And after I spin that, I'm going to flip my little flaps up right here and do the same thing with this one. Flip the flap. Come on. Come on. There, just had to get my fingernail in there. All right, after you've done that, now you can push these together, squeeze those together like that, and then bring this backpack together. And what you're going to do, this little double hinged piece that you caved in a little bit earlier, you're actually just going to bring this up just past that, and then you're going to collapse all that in and then bring your wings up. So you've got the backpack. For all intents and purposes at this point, your backpack is completed. So you just got to clean the rest of this guy up. All right. So if it hasn't already flopped around on you, like it has on me, take those arms, open those arms up, and then you can take this chest assembly and you're going to bring that up. When you do, his little head slot right under here is going to just glide right into this spot right here. So take that, slide that right into place. And then if you look right here on the arms, you've got tabs. And then you've got slots on the back of this chest panel. But on the chest panels, you have tabs. And then you have little slots right there. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you have your arms closed like this. And you're going to bring your chest panels in like that. And what I found that works is just kind of keep pressure, make sure the arms are closed, and then use your thumbs to push in on these. And then you've got that all locked in place. All right, then you can just bring those legs down and take that backpack, adjust his head, take the backpack, tab it in, if it'll stay tabbed for you, you know. These don't securely tab, but these, at least on my copy, these joints are nice and tight. So once you get them there, they're going to stay there. All right, so now you're just in cleanup mode. You can adjust these shoulder pads however you want them, and take those elbow flaps and bring those elbow flaps out, and then bring out those hands. So bring the hands out, close that flap, do the same thing over here. Close that flap. And did we get everything? I believe we did. I believe so. All right. So there you have Firefox back in his bot mode. I wasn't finished. You guys let me forget this heel spur. I had this one out, but I forgot to do this one. For shame. All right, now he's done. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see the Firefox next to his ex-bestie. This is the core class Transformers Starscream, and you can see that, man, he just absolutely towers over the core class. Moving on to our next comparison, here we see Firefox next to a fellow NewAge character or figure. This is the NewAge Octavian. That's their take on the G1 Ultra Magnus. Moving on to our next comparison, this is my original G1 Jetfire, so you can see how that Legend Scale Firefox stacks up to the OG. For our next comparison, this is the Thrilling 30 Generations Jetfire. And last but by no means least is what I consider to be our most relevant comparison. This is the War for Cybertron Siege Commander class Jetfire. And you can see just how heavily NewAge borrowed from this look right here. Man, these two look really good together. And this guy's absolutely enormous, but you can see that even for a Legends class, this figure right here is still a really large figure for that scale. I mean, it works, the scale works, but he's just huge. But these two guys look great together, so we're going to get a couple different views of these two together. Here they are back to back, or should we say backpack to backpack. Here they are in a 3/4 rear view. And finally, here they are just kind of looking at us head on, straight ahead. That's it for the bot mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there you have the NewAge Firefox, their take on a Legend Scaled Skyfire Jetfire. And wow, this figure is amazing. This is definitely in my top 5, top 10 figures really that I have in my collection. He looks the part. He's sturdy. He feels good in the hand. The transformation is fun. I just have a hard time putting him down, but let's go ahead and jump into it a little bit. He's not perfect. Let's talk about it. Let's start with those aesthetics and the good things. Look at him. He's spectacular in both modes. It's just a beautiful, beautiful figure. And talk about a shelf presence. Just wonderful. You know, there are a few things that I think they could have done better here, but I really think they hit it out of the park. I love the chest plate. I love the fact that it's got those 3 sides. And right now I just have it sitting neutral. But if you have the repro labels, you can get a Decepticon logo, get an Autobot logo, throw it on there, and then just change his allegiance as you feel is necessary. You know, my biggest complaint really would be that in his alt mode, it would have been nice to have had landing gear that actually rolled. You know, not just those plastic molded pieces. I think that does kind of detract from it. But everything else just works. You know, I guess I could have hoped for maybe some translucent plastic on the upper canopy here on that backpack, especially in his alt mode. I think it would have looked better. It would have gone better with that cockpit translucent blue plastic that they use there. But everything else, my gosh, this guy's just beautiful. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. One last thing that I do want to note is I didn't cover it in the review, and I'm totally blanking out on what you call it, but you can 100% in alt mode bring those legs out so it looks like he's landing while he's still in jet mode, and I'm blanking out on what that's called. Somebody let me know in the comments. But yeah, you can totally do that, and I apologize for not covering that in the review. Moving on to the articulation, he's got almost everything that you could ask for. For a legend scaled figure, this guy's got it in spades, and definitely a wide range of motion. It would have been nice if they would have done something slightly different with that head. I like the fact that it looks full, the neck looks full, and it's not just an obvious ball joint under there. But it would have been nice to maybe had some, quizzical, or the ability to give him some quizzical looks. On those hands, all the fingers, all four fingers move together. Would have been nice if we could have gotten some separation there, like index finger moving separately from the other three, but that's kind of a wish list item. And then it would have been nice to have, if they could incorporate it, to have put a butterfly joint in those shoulders, just to give them a little bit more range of motion. But everything else is there: ab crunch, waist rotation, all kinds of maneuverability with those feet and with those ankles, and just about anything that you could ask for. You could change the orientation of his wings and have them pointed down. So just great. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for articulation. Moving on to accessories, this is easily his weakest point. I guess the gun's cool. It looks good. Would have benefited from some paint. It's kind of sort of blast effect compatible with those Siege blast effects that we got from the War for Cybertron line, but it's not really. It's not really meant for that. So it would have been nice if they would have included some blast effects for that gun. Additionally, it would have been nice if they would have had some more accessories with this figure. Kind of like what we got with the Siege Commander Jetfire, kind of that armor, where he could have had a mask and something to put on his chest. It would have been really cool there. But the accessory is okay. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Moving on to overall quality. Yeah, it's good. Most of my joints are really, really nice and tight. No complaints whatsoever there. I do have a couple of minor paint blemishes here and there. Nothing major whatsoever, but just a couple minor paint blemishes. And then those ankles are a little looser than I would have liked to have had them be. And I do worry about them over time, just with that one pin down here being the control mechanism. But overall quality is great. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Moving on to our last bullet, overall value. So I'm just going to say it now. I picked this figure up online from Show Z Store. I paid $89 US for this figure. That, I think, is a great deal for what you get here, especially with the price of what everything else is going for. He is just loaded to bear. This is without a doubt a mini masterpiece. I think he is worth every cent at that price. I will say buyer beware, because I know that there are other websites out there where if you're not careful, you're going to pay significantly more, up to $50, $60 more for this figure than what I found it at Show Z Store. So just be aware of that as you're out there shopping. But the value is definitely here for this guy at $89.90 US. So I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10, which is really rare on value. I think he's worth it all the way. So that brings us to our final total out of a possible 50 points. The NewAge Firefox gets 44 out of 50, which puts him at 88%. Makes this guy a super easy recommendation. I would actually take it a step further and go from a recommendation to an encouragement. You need to go out and you need to get this figure. I think he's awesome. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information. I hope you're entertained. And as always, if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe, leave some comments. And if you know of anyone who would like the channel or the videos that we do here, please feel free to share that information with them. So until we see you guys in the next one, take care.